I always get the latest, greatest iPhone. Does that surprise anyone? If you're that kind of guy, wait for the island. If you're not and you're frugal and you really are on a budget, you are not going to be disappointed with this existing inventory car. Pounce now because they think these things are going to go quickly.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to Out of Spec Guide. I'm Max, and I'm joined by Out of Spec Dave. Hello.
Hey, Max, how's it going?
Going well. So you've been road tripping your Model 3 a lot, right?
Yeah, the Model 3, not a lot. Yeah, I've been daily driving my Model 3. Kathy, my wife, just picked up a Model Y, a long range, and just we took that down to Florida here over the last couple days. So we put about almost 1,400 miles on that car in about 36 hours with a motel sleep in the middle. So yeah, great time, uneventful trip. Really worked out very well.
Nice. When it comes to EVs, saying an uneventful trip, that's the name of the game, right? That
Yeah.
means you're winning. All right, so Dave, you've got some experience with recent Tesla products. I think arguably their two most important products, both Model 3 and Model Y. So we discussed Kathy's Model Y. People really should check that video out on your channel. But Model 3 right now is such an interesting car for people who are looking for, well, one of the most affordable new electric cars you can get in terms of being highway capable, having access to a great charging network, and having, a sporty rear wheel drive sedan. With that base LFP car, the one you have with that new battery, seems to be the real deal. So, Dave, first off, can you just talk about the experience you've had with your current Model 3 so far?
Yeah, yeah, sure. No, listen, the thing about this existing Model 3, and let's not even talk about economics yet, and what an incredible smoking hot deal the Model 3 rear-wheel drive is right now. Forget about that. Let's talk about what this car is offering today, because the experience that you get by getting any Tesla is whether it's an S, an X, a $90,000 Model S, a $100,000 Model X, you get basically the same exact software experience in the base Model 3 as you do in any of the other three cars. And everything is just so refined and so good, from the app itself to Sentry mode to dog mode to the way with which you can actually use autopilot. Now, I don't have enhanced autopilot or FSD, but just lane centering and dynamic or adaptive cruise control. There's so much in this package in the rear wheel drive Model 3 that I don't even think, I know it's the best value out there right now. Like if you're even remotely thinking about getting a Toyota Camry, or quite honestly, even a base Toyota, what's the little one that they sell? The not the
You said
Celica,
the
but
Yaris, but that's not in the US. There's
no,
the
not that base. Like
Corolla.
yeah, the Corolla. You can get you could spice up a Corolla that could be more expensive than a base rear-wheel drive Model 3. Now, there's a couple things about this rear-wheel drive. 0 to 60 on this car is advertised at 5.8 seconds, and it feels plenty fast. I mean, you really don't need to be going that much faster. It's got 279, 268, 270 miles of indicated range when you charge it. But the thing about this battery pack is it's a lithium iron phosphate, or an LFP. Basically allows you to charge this car every single day to 100% without it causing any issues or degradation. Tesla claims that this battery pack is and it's made by CATL, which is a Chinese company, and they claim that this battery pack is going to have about double the life of the packs with the cobalt, the regular lithium battery packs that you'll get, let's say, in the Model 3 Performance or the Model 3 Long Range. This rear wheel drive Model 3 right now, forget about what's happening with the Highland, forget about the refresh, and we'll talk about that. It is an incredibly good value, and it's every bit of Tesla, Max. It's not as if you're skimping really in any way. The biggest issue is that if you need a hatchback, it's not that. It's got a trunk. and the rear seats fold down. But if you can get over sort of the fact that it's a car and it has a trunk, it's an incredibly powerful package, great car, and I love it. It's great. I daily drive it, take it. It's got great turning radius. It's just easy to live with.
And here's the killer thing, Dave. No one can seem to kill this car. Like Tesla Model Y, we all know that's also compelling, really interesting product. Kathy loves having hers again, and it's, got the best charging network. It's got a lot of its own advantages, but it does have competition. There are other offerings on the market that are competing with it, whether it's Mustang Mach-E or Ioniq 5. That crossover space is, it's heavily
Yeah, I mean,
contested. I know where you stand, and Model Y
no, no, it's
is
not even
great.
just where I stand. With if you put the F-150 aside, the Model Y is now the best-selling car in the world, right? So,
Yes, it is.
there's
Yes. And I'm not going to argue Model Y is not immensely compelling, competitive,
yeah,
arguably the best in the category. But Model 3, Dave, the interesting thing here is there's basically no competition for this car. There was the Bolt, but that was a hatchback. It was much
yeah.
less car. It really wasn't this caliber of machine, even as the rear wheel drive spec, that you have. And then there's the Ioniq 6 that's coming out. But honestly, the Hyundai Ioniq 6 not being eligible for the tax credit in the US, having the disadvantages of not having access to any kind of Tesla charging. I think for a lot of, as a gateway drug for buyers into the EV world, the Model 3 is the silver bullet.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing about it, Max, is especially if you're thinking about getting an electric vehicle and this is the first time you'll ever do it. Maybe you had a Prius, a little hybrid. Maybe you've been thinking about getting an electric vehicle. You just cannot go wrong with this Model 3 rear wheel drive. And even if you live in a climate where you do get snow, throw some snow tires on there because the motor that powers this car, unlike in the Kona, which is a front wheel drive car, this is a rear wheel drive car. So when you accelerate, the weight goes towards the back and the motor is over the back and you're going to be able to accelerate. And let's not forget, stopping in snow and ice, the most important thing you can have is good brakes and really good tires. So I wouldn't even hesitate to recommend a rear wheel drive Model 3 even if you live in an area where there's snow. Now, if you need ground clearance and you get a ton of snow, I'm not gonna tell you that all-wheel drive, this is better than all-wheel drive. But for the where I live in Connecticut, I don't need to have an all-wheel drive car as a daily driver. I just don't. We don't really get that much snow. And when we do, you know what? I'll work from home. That's all. So,
Yeah, and you put proper snow tires in a vehicle, like you said, Dave, especially an electric car, which can use, in motor, super advanced traction control. You've got the right rubber. You can turn and stop really well. And because the Model 3, right, has that really well distributed weight, like a lot of EVs do, rear wheel drive, I agree with you, is not that big of an issue.
yeah.
Really, maybe temperature with LFPs. These batteries might not get as much range in winter. Is that kind of, as I understand, the main
I
disadvantage?
don't have that experience to be able to say that, but for look, think about this. I drive 6 miles every day one way to work. I don't charge my car every day. I charge it once a week up to 100% just to kind of keep the BMS, the battery management system, in check. But even if you've got a 50-mile commute one way, um, the fact that this car's got 250 plus miles of range, it's plenty for daily driving for 90 plus percent of the people that are out there. The back seat's a little tight. You see, the Model Y is about 10% bigger in every dimension, but I'm 6'5" and maybe should be a little, maybe not quite as wide as I am, although I'm working on that. But the fact is that I fit really well in this Model 3. And I've had Model S's, I've had 3 or 4 of them. I find that the seating posture in this Model 3 is just perfect. Everything about this car, they have nailed it. They made this car so good, Max. And I know you've driven the Model 3s before. It's hard to knock the car for what it is. But and I don't want to jump to economics until you give me the green light. Um, but I do want to say that it's not like a poor man's Tesla. You see a lot of the Uber guys and the Lyft guys, driving these today. because they're bulletproof and they can make money with them. And they're just amazing cars. So, look, I think they're great cars, and the economics of this car today is just it's just unbelievable, the kind of deals that you can get on them right now. So,
Yeah, I think very well said. And the economics of this car right now, they've been interesting for the last few months, but they're getting really interesting now because it seems like Tesla's playing some inventory games because the rumors suggest that an upcoming refresh or a facelift is coming to Model 3. And Dave, we just spent 10 minutes talking about, very deservedly so, why the Model 3 is so excellent. Nothing else in the market really touches it in terms of value. Why does Tesla need to refresh it? What are we looking or
yeah.
expecting in this
Well, look,
update?
you think about life cycle of cars every 3, 4, 5 years. Generally speaking, you'll evolve your car. This Model 3's been out since 2017. It's 6 years old. And the things that they're doing to it, from the base model to the Highland, if you are one of these early adopter guys or gals that need to have the best, the newest, then yeah, you might want to think about waiting for the Highland, which is their code name for the refreshed Model 3. Now, to just kind of break down some of the things that are in there, it's not as if there's any functional differences other than hardware 4, which is definitely going to be part of this car. I'm not sure if hardware 4 is also going to include the high definition radar. I believe it will, but it's minor things, Max. I think they've removed the T off the center of the hood. Perhaps that will not be there. They've got a redesigned front bumper. They've got redesigned headlights. There is a camera now that is very similar to where it is in the front on the S and the X, because these cars have eliminated the it's they're basically vision-based cars today, and so there is a bit of a blind spot in my car, my rear-wheel drive, that you can't quite see, or the car can't quite see. So they've added a little camera to the front bumper. They've redesigned the rear of the car, the bumper of the car in the rear. They've added, I think, a couple of cameras to it, and it's also hardware 4. But it's not a major redesign. It's an evolution, not a revolution on the outside. And then on the inside, what they've done with this car, Max, is on the Model S and the X. When they went to the yoke originally, they also eliminated the turn signal stock and the high beam, where you put on your turn signals and your high beams and all of that. They killed basically the stocks that everyone is used to. And today on the rear wheel drive, and also Model 3, and also on the Model Ys, they have the traditional. So if you sit someone who's never driven an electric vehicle before, you're not going to be in such foreign territory. I mean, you don't have any kind of a speedometer or odometer in front of the steering wheel. You have to look off to the right hand side. But if you've never driven a Model 3 or a Model Y, don't let that freak you out. You'll get used to it. We are blessed as human beings with having something called peripheral vision, and your eyes are amazing. Within 10 minutes, I think you'll get very used to being able to see the speed that you're going with these Model 3s and the Model Ys. And there are also add-on devices, if that's not enough, that you can buy and put right in front of the steering wheel. But the new Highland is going to eliminate those stocks. And so you're going to have a little button on the steering wheel that you're going to either turn to the right or to the left for the turn signals, and then also for um, the high beams and things like that. And what I would say to you, after having a refresh, the Palladium Model S, I got used to it. But that's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there. They're also eliminating, in on the interior. They're trying to update it a little bit, so that white plastic that you see, or the wood grain that you see in the traditional Model 3s that have been out there for a long time, that's going to be replaced with some kind of either Alcantara, or some kind of a cloth fabric that's in the Model S's and the X's today. I'm sure that'll be nice, but it's not going to be crazy. The biggest thing that they're doing is they're actually outsourcing the manufacturing of the seats. And I can tell you that my rear wheel drive now, I made a video where my seat is creaking. and I'm actually going to have my seat replaced, but they are going to a ventilated seat. So if you live in the South and you really want the black interior, it's going to be a nice thing to have the ventilated seats on the new Highland. So these are minor things, though. It's not like the existing Model 3 that you can get incredibly good deals on right now. I think that the reason why you're able to get good deals is because the Highland is imminently going to be coming out. Now, does that mean it's going to be announced in the third quarter and then they're going to start deliveries in the fourth quarter? Or is it going to be accelerated from there? I don't really know. But what I can tell you is that if you've been like dreaming about getting a Tesla, and you can kind of think about the economics of the existing Tesla today, which I know we're going to talk about. I would not hesitate for a moment jumping on one of these inventory cars that are right now, they're discounting them around $2,000. So you can buy one for about $38,000. And then if you do qualify for the federal tax credit, then that's another $7,500 off. And if you live in a certain state, there are a number of states, California, um, Delaware, Connecticut. In my state of Connecticut, there's an additional $2,250 that comes off right off the hood. So these cars are max. They're under 30 grand now when you take into account the all these tax credits. Now, you have to make enough money in order to take advantage of that $7,500 federal tax credit. And if you don't, that's when you might want to think about looking in the used market for one of these Model 3s. And I highly recommend doing that, but just be careful what you buy in the used market, knowing what you're buying. This LFP rear wheel drive, it hasn't been out there all that long. Last summer, right around this time, they were only offered as an off menu item to employees only at first, and then they started to roll them out. And it wasn't until March of this year that Tesla actually added the rear wheel drive LFP to the menu that well, wait, was that true? Yeah, I think it was true. They didn't really even have that car um, available for quite a while. So there aren't a lot of them out there, I think, on the used marketplace right now. But because of all these rumors of the Highland coming out, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, you got to wait for the new one. I'm not so sure you do. If you're on a budget, don't be shy about pouncing on one of these inventory cars right now.
I agree with you, Dave. So it sounds like with Highland, we can expect the creature comforts, upgraded sensors, and even safer, in some ways, more luxurious car for the money you have, which is already incredible. Because I think it's amazing that, Dave, that the base Model 3, the one you have, has what standard front and rear heated seats, a heated steering wheel, all of these things. Of course, like you mentioned, the same software experience you're used to across the Tesla lineup. That's really compelling. And I would argue, um, I think it's interesting the stocks and the new controls point of view, because you could argue if you're the kind of person who wants a more comfortable electric car that you're used to coming from your existing
Yeah,
hybrid car, then maybe that's actually an advantage getting the existing car, not this upcoming one.
I would agree with that because there's a bit of a learning curve for not having those stocks, the turn signals and all of that on the
Mhm.
in addition to the round steering wheel. It's
And
a
Dave,
it's
sorry, not to, I want to get
no,
into
that's
economics, but the Connecticut benefits are great. I encourage everyone who's in the position of shopping for a Model 3 or similar affordable electric car to explore their state incentives. I just discovered last week Colorado has a new program where, in addition to our $5,000 state credit for a new EV, like a new Model 3, you can also get $6,000, Dave, for turning in your 12-year-old gas car to be recycled. So that's
wait, did you
$11,000.
say $5,000 state?
We have a, yes, they recently bumped it up. So we have a
All right,
standard.
give me the phone. Where's I'm moving to Colorado. Well, are
I
you
know.
kidding me?
Every EV lover should live in Colorado. Yeah.
It's funny. New Jersey, there's no state sales tax on EVs, but they had a $4,000 state rebate, but the state ran out of money on it, so that no longer exists. The program's over. So yeah, I mean, make sure that's incredible that even on an older car that you can get that just turn it in on that Vehicle Exchange Colorado program. Wow. That's just crazy. But the thing is, don't let these crazy cheap prices make you think that you're getting a sub, like an inferior car. You're just not. And I mean, like, look, what are you showing right here? That's a used inventory car.
Mhm.
$27,900 for a used car with 75,000 miles on it. There's no way I would buy that. I'd get a brand new one with the 7,500 and the 2,250, and it's basically the same money for a brand new car.
Especially, Dave, when you consider the fact that the federal tax incentive, all of these typically apply to new cars. Yes, there are some new both federal and state use incentives, but these great incentives, which of course you have to be applicable for, they typically do apply to new purchases.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, one thing, just the mechanics on on that $7,500 federal tax credit. I'm not an accountant, nor am I giving any kind of financial advice here, but let's just say that you make 75 grand, okay, a year, or make 50 grand a year. All right. If you make 50 grand a year, what are you in? A 25% tax bracket? Something like that? 50,000 times 0.25. So you're paying $12,500 a year in taxes.
Mhm.
You have to realize that I'm pretty sure that you will be able to take advantage of that 7,500 if you're making 50 grand. If you're making $32,000 a year and you're in a 20, I don't know if it's 22, 23%. Let's just say, let's again, I'm not an accountant, but let's say it's a 22% tax bracket and there's certain money that's excluded up to a certain amount. But let's just say you're paying $7,000 a year in taxes. Okay, and you get a $7,500 federal tax credit. You could take that 7,000 that you owe and use that 7,500 to offset that tax that you paid. So it's not as if you lose the entire 7,500. Check with your accountant on this. But one of the things that you need to do is you need to pay for the entire car this year. So let's say you want to buy a Model 3 rear-wheel drive. Every one of them is eligible for the $7,500 federal tax credit. You actually have to pay Tesla the full amount of the car. And then when you file your taxes in April of 2024 for tax year 23, that's when you can claim that tax rebate or credit off of your taxes. In 2024, not to suggest that people should delay buying a car, but in 2024, they're going to the Tesla or any of these other companies that have a $7,500 federal tax credit for EVs. You're going to actually have that taken right off the price of the car at the point of sale. So you're not going to have to finance the whole car. You're not going to, and that's going to be a big thing because you still have to qualify if it's a $38,000 car. You'll get the 2250 off of that, let's say in the state of Connecticut. You have to pay sales tax on that, which is 6.35%. But let's just say it's a $32,000 car. You're still going to have to pay, in finance or put down 10% or 20%. But next year, that $7,500 will come right off the price of that car. So you won't have to finance the whole thing like 38,000 or 40,000 or whatever it ends up being. And that's going to be a big deal for people that are on a budget. So just be aware of that.
It will be a big deal. And I think right now people can also get around this through leasing. And I'm not sure if leasing a car like Model 3 is the best path to driving and owning it, but if that's
I,
the
I
path you want to go
I'm
down,
going to do a whole video on leasing.
yeah.
And right now with Tesla, there's two different types of leases. There's what's called an open-end lease and a closed-end lease. And an open-end lease, you get the ability to buy the car at the end of the lease. They'll set a residual value. So you pay 40 grand for the car. They'll say, all right, at the end of the lease, you can buy the car for $26,000 or whatever it is. Tesla will not sell you the car. Every single one of the Tesla leases right now are closed-end leases. And what that means is that they're not applying that $7,500 as a cap cost reduction towards the lease. So the economics on leasing a Tesla are not good. I would not do that. You're just not getting the credit. Now, if you're going to lease a Bolt, all right, Chevy will give you, I believe Chevy will give you the full $7,500 as a cap cost reduction to lower the amount of principal that you have to reduce over, let's say, a 3-year time period. And that's where you can get into some crazy numbers. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, the EQSs and the EQAs that are made in Alabama, those leases are crazy because they're able to, I think they're having a little trouble selling them, number one, but maybe I'm wrong, but they're applying that $7,500 on the cap cost reduction and they're leasing out at crazy good numbers. Again, a different market, a completely different market, but leasing a Tesla, I mean, don't, if you're on a budget, do not get tempted that the lease is $30 or $40 a month less than buying a Tesla. Look at the whole app, the whole economic transaction inclusive of the 7,500 or inclusive of how much you will qualify of that 7,500. Don't just look at it as like what the payment's going to be today and compare the lease. Oh, it's $30 less. Just really be careful with that because Tesla's just not giving you that 7,500 on a cap cost reduction on a lease.
Yeah, no, good point. Thanks for bringing that up. And people who are interested in that should explore. I can't wait for your in-depth kind of video on all of that. Because I didn't know that. The Tesla does that. I know some brands are leaning towards that with EVs. They've made the decision that, okay, now it's going to be closed because of they'll make a justification like battery recycling or something. But basically, we want the car back at the end of the lease term. You're not going
That's
to have
right.
the option to buy it.
There's one good thing about leasing EVs, though, that I do want to stress is that this is excuse me, it's such an evolving market right now that technological advances, battery technology, features, all the different things that are coming out. If you just want to like dabble with an EV and for me 3 years is just an eternity. Like that would scare the heck out of me. I just had to sign a contract with Kathy because she says I can't sell her Model Y for 3 years. I had heart palpitations on that one. But imagine if you actually had to sign a real contract with a real company and say I'm going to keep this car for 3 years. If you're the type of person that's like, okay, that's great. That's fine. Also, keep in mind if you're planning on Ubering or lifting and you're going to put a lot of miles, leasing is probably not the way to go either. But what leasing does do for you is it tells you what the economics are at the time that you sign the lease. You don't know what they're going to be if you buy that car. So for example, 3 years from now, people may say, "Oh, look at the Highland. That's the one you want." You don't want that original one, the 2017 car, right? Or the 2023 early model 2023, not before the refresh. Those things tanked in value. So you do protect yourself a little bit on the downside as the technology starts to evolve, and that takes somewhat of an economic risk out of the equation. But again, I don't believe Tesla leasing is the way to go. Other manufacturers of EVs that can apply that 7,500 towards a cap cost reduction, and that makes a lot of sense. The other point about that 7,500 is that the owner of the car is who's taking that 7,500. So if you don't qualify for the 7,500, let's say you make $26,000 a year and you're on a budget and you really want an EV, you can get that $7,500 federal tax credit on a non-Tesla brand EV. And that's where things start to get really interesting. Again, a different topic, a different video, and I'm going to go through that and explain it. But yeah, I just, getting back to the original thesis of this is, does it make sense to buy this Model 3 rear-wheel drive today with the good values that are out there? And what I would say is, yes, I absolutely do believe it makes sense to do it. I bought one not knowing the Highland was coming out. I probably will flip mine and sell my Model 3 and get the Highland, but don't go by me. I'm not the typical, buyer. You could buy this Model 3 today and drive it for the next 10 years with this LFP battery pack. You could put probably 200,000 or 300,000 miles on this car, and it's going to serve you extremely well. And it's super economical. The 3 months teaser of Tesla supercharging, to me, that's like 3 months is nothing. Unless you're planning on doing a major road trip over the next, over the next 3 months, that's like you go from 5% to 90% in that LFP battery pack, which is only about 65 kilowatt hours. That's maybe $18. So How many times are you going to really charge your car at a Tesla supercharger over 3 months? It's not a lot of money. 3 years? Okay. 3 months? I was like, what? I don't think that's really all that much value. Don't let that tease you into buying this car. That's the wrong reason for buying this car. There are a lot of right reasons for buying this car, but that's the wrong reason.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that because I think it's one of those things where it's like if you itemize this for most people, the reduction in cost would be like a few $100s.
At most.
For way most normal people would use that. What's more significant is the fact that inventory cars, Dave, as opposed to one that you configure yourself, are being discounted because Tesla has this existing inventory across, their showrooms, like the one here in Denver. So here's this, new model year one, absolutely a new car, the rear wheel drive LFP, just like yours. It might have some extra equipment, but they've knocked 3 grand off the price.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, to me, what I did when I bought my car, I wanted the cheapest one you could get. I wanted white, black interior with the 18-inch wheels, with those funky caps. Give me the base model. I'm looking at this as a utility. This is a car it's not I'm driving it because I want it to be the most economical car. Now, if you like a certain color and you want to spend $1,000 or you like those 19-inch wheels, I mean, knock yourself out. But the one that I got, Max, it's 38 grand right now as an inventory. The white with the black interior with the 18-inch wheels. I mean, and don't buy enhanced or FSD. Do not do that. Just get the base car. If you want to dabble with FSD like or enhance, just pay 199 a month for and check it out and see if you like it. But don't waste your money, in my opinion. Just get this is a frugal man's purchase of a real solid, viable Tesla. This is every bit the pedigree. You get in this car and you squint a little bit, you're going to think you're in a Model S. And you know what's also interesting? It's funny. Kathy, my wife, she was driving the GV60 to work every day. She works in a high school, right? And these kids, this is a $70,000 car. It's the performance. The thing does 0 to 60 in 3.2 or 3.5 seconds. They didn't even look at it. Kathy took my Model 3 rear wheel drive to school one day. The kid's like, oh, did you see Mrs. Connors driving a Tesla? How cool is that? To the untrained eye, this Model 3 right there, it's a $100,000 car to those that don't know. And quite honestly, it doesn't really, it's in a lot of ways, it's better than the Model S.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun. Max, this thing's like a go-kart on the back roads. It's so much fun to drive. It really is. I don't know. I get excited about the car. And then when you think about the economics of it, it's a no-brainer. For the first time EV owner, don't go off brand. I mean, you can if you want to. If your use case is you got a level 2 charger in your garage, you're only driving 50 miles every single day, you're never really going to go to the CCS network, then sure, go ahead and get an ID4, you buy the bolts before they're gone. They're super cheap. I think you can buy them for like 18, 19 grand. Tom Malogny just bought one, Kyle told me, and they're super cheap, and that's great. And I've had the Bolt. It's a good little car. It charges really badly, 55 kilowatts. This Model 3, this LFP, it's not going to charge as fast as the 2170, like the Model Y that we just got. You're going to peak out maybe at like 210, 220, and then it's going to taper. But keep in mind, it's a smaller battery pack. This is the only Tesla I think that weighs under 4,000 pounds. I mean, it's not that. It's a small, light, compact, smaller battery car. You're going to spend 25 minutes at the supercharger and you're gone. You're ready to go. You're ready to rock and roll. So yeah, I mean, unless you're one of these people that really has to have the latest, greatest, then wait for the Highland. If you're looking for a smoking hot deal, economic, on an amazing car, no reason to wait and get the Highland. It's just such a good thing. The other thing to keep in mind, Max, is the odds of Tesla raising the prices on the Highland are higher than not. Although Tesla does some wacky things, so it wouldn't be surprising to me if they blow out all the inventory Model 3s they got on the lot, and then they just say, you know what? we're lowering the price on the Highland by 2 grand. Nothing would surprise me, but I would say there's a higher likelihood that they're definitely not going to be discounting them like these inventory cars. They're probably going to be in the low 40s versus you have the opportunity to buy one right now for 38 if you don't get crazy with colors and wheels and all of that and interiors. So if you're on a budget, this is a solid car. It is an amazing car. It is every bit of Tesla. I can't even tell you how much I recommend this car if it's what you like. Again, 6'5", I get in it. It's fine. It's got a glass roof. It's amazing, Max. I'm sorry. I get pumped up about this car. I genuinely think, without a doubt, it's the best Tesla you can buy. You buy this car, even if you have money, buy this car, you're just going to love it. You're going to get in and say, this thing's so cheap, inexpensive, not cheap. This thing is amazing. And it's every bit of Tesla.
Yeah, no, what a great moment in history we're living in where one of the most efficient, not the most, but one of the most efficient production electric cars ever made with a, respectable 0 to 60 time and handling and rear wheel drive and being a sedan and still having decent interior space, to having creature comforts, a car that has all of these features and things going for it, not to mention, of course, supercharging. All of these things in a car that's actually inexpensive and actually pretty affordable for people. Then you combine that with the long-term benefits of owning an EV in terms of lower cost of ownership on everything, charging, maintenance. It's pretty sweet.
It is, yeah. So anyway, I think you had said to me, "Hey Dave, should I if I'm in the market for a Model 3, should I wait for the Highland or not?" Um, if you're on a budget and you have the ability to pounce now, I would pounce now. And I would drive this car with my head held high. This is an amazing machine. And don't stretch. Don't stretch. If you can get this car now at this value, go for it.
I would
It's
say, Dave, though, let's say you're the person, right, making $50,000, $60,000 you mentioned. Next year, right, that tax credit, if you actually have that tax liability, will be, passed on and you can get it point of sale.
that's right.
Maybe, Dave, does it make sense if Highland prices, again, we don't know anything, but does it make sense maybe to wait that out? Then you get that tax credit
Yeah,
up
well,
front.
listen, it's a good point, and one of the reasons why is because, the cost of capital right now is quite high. If you don't have a super good credit rating, like if you got a really good credit rating right now, Tesla will lend you money at about 5.5, 5.79%. That's about it. They're not blowing out money at 0.9% or 1.9%. But if you have to buy either a used vehicle or you're going to spend 8-9% on a used car for a loan. So if you're going to finance that 7,500 now, and then you're going to have that in your payment, you're going to be paying, let's just call it 6-7% interest on that. If you wait till next year, where the point of sale, the 7,500, even if you qualify for it, it'll come off at the point of sale, right off the hood, as they say. Then you won't have to finance that 7,500. So that's something to consider. Look, when interest rates 6 months ago were stupid low, I wouldn't have thought about it. But today, cost of capital is high, interest rates are pretty high. So this is a big deal that they're going to be able to give you that 7,500 off the point of sale in
It will be.
2024.
And of course, we don't know how economic conditions will change and what even Highland will look like. We can speculate. We've seen the rumors, we've seen the likely changes. But I agree with you, Dave, that this is by all means an evolution and not a revolution. And I
That's right.
think in 3 years, we can probably have this same discussion about how the Model 3 is so great. It will just be about Highland with ventilated seats and all of
Yeah.
those nice amenities.
Remember, and I'll just be real fast. Back in the day when the Prius, the Gen 2 Prius was out, I didn't really love that design, right? But when they came out with the Gen 3 Priuses, I was like, wow, I really like that design. That was a major change. They had extra range. They had so many, I mean, it was basically an entirely new car. This is not that from everything we're hearing. Like you said, or like I said, whoever said it, evolution, not revolution. It's minor cosmetic changes. Whereas, I mean, the model, some of the cars, when you look at manufacturers of cars and they go from a 2017 to a 2018, they look completely different, but they're called the same thing, right? This is not that. It's not as if, maybe I'll be wrong, maybe, but it's not like the LFP is now going to give you 320 miles of range when it comes out. I don't anticipate any major mechanical differences other than hardware 4. Horsepower, speed, specs, range. I don't think any of that's going to change in this evolution to the quote Highland Model 3. But it's going to look a little different. You are going to be sort of the pretty girl at the dance when you pull up in a Highland, and people, oh wow, check that out. He's got a brand new Model 3. You're gonna be able to do that. Whereas if you buy the existing one, you're just going to blend in. It's like, oh, there's another Model 3. So if you like pulling up the stoplights and people going like this and looking at you, you're going to have that with the Highland. How much is that worth? I don't know. For me,
And with an
I'd
existing
probably do it.
yeah, yeah, I know you're going to do it, Dave. But
I
for an
probably
existing
will.
three, what do people like Kyle and Colton and everyone, right, gets something like Martian wheels or an accessory like that. So there are other ways to make your car stand
That's
out.
right.
And like you said, Highland's not going to be the Prius second or third gen. We're looking at
No.
what? Revised headlights, a little bit of a different front fascia, mostly the same car.
That's right. That's right. Look,
But that's
either way,
all.
I don't think you can make a mistake. We're talking about the best and the best, and it's like, which is it? I don't know. They're so good. They just are so good. It's amazing to me. This Model 3 rear-wheel drive, it drives great. It
Yeah,
really does.
yeah.
Um, Amazing car.
I'll end this with an analogy. Every year I'm a tech guy, so like when I see one of my relatives buy an iPhone in like August or something, and it's the nicest, newest iPhone, I'm like, you could have just waited 1 month, and then the new iPhone would have been out. And you know what? It's always a situation, be it my dad, aunt, grandpa, whoever. They don't care. They're happy with that phone. If you want
Right.
to be the person who gets the most value, who has the shiniest, newest thing, you're
Yeah.
not going to listen to us anyways. You're just going to wait this
Yeah,
out.
no, I'm the wrong guy. Listen, I remember back in the day, Kyle and I, we stood online for hours when the iPad came out. And I was like, okay, so we had fun. There was guys telling jokes. There was a magician on the line. Apple did it right. They were handing out free waters. And I was like, okay, Kyle, I don't even know how old he was, 16 or 17, not even 17. So we got up to the front of the line and they showed us the iPad. And I was like, wow, okay, I'll take two. And I was like, yes, this thing, let me have that. And by the way, I always get the latest, greatest iPhone. Does that surprise anyone? If you're that kind of guy, wait for the Island. If you're not and you're frugal and you really are on a budget, you are not going to be disappointed with this existing inventory car. Pounce now because they think these things are going to go quickly. I know there's a lot of them in inventory right now. In my zip code of 06850, there are 5 white Model 3 rear-wheel drive with black interiors right now in the inventory. $38,040. 5 of them. In a week, there'll probably be 2. In another week, they'll be gone. And then once they're gone, that's it.
Yep. I mean, really, it's one of those situations where if you want to pounce now and get a good deal, most likely this is it. Highland is going to be a new car no matter what. There's not going to be used Highlands in the market, and I can guarantee you
No,
Tesla is not going to be taking thousands off whatever its MSRP ends up
that's
being.
right.
So
That's
this
right.
is the chance, and thank you so much for joining me, Dave. At the risk of tanking this video's views, I almost want to take the last 30 seconds of what you just said and put that right up front because that feels like so important to say out there. It's just, now's the moment if you can make it happen and you want a Model 3. Nothing wrong with getting one now.
Yeah, absolutely. Best of luck to all of you guys. And if you're going to go for an EV and you're on a budget, just pounce. Just write the check. Go get it. Just do it. Come on, I'll go with you. Where do you live? Let's go buy the car. It's fun.
Yeah, new car. Dave smells that. He's going to be right there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the
Absolutely,
next
Mac.
one. We got to do more of these, but thanks for joining me, Dave.
Absolutely. You have a good day. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.